you a dark dreamer? It is said that to best enjoy the light, you must first explore the heart and soul of the darkness. We are the artists who create in the shadows, whose dreams are designed to become your reality. I'm Stanley Wiater. Welcome to my world of the dark fantastic. Welcome to the world of dark dreamers. Are you a dark dreamer? Larry Cohen always has been. One of the few independent filmmakers who can legitimately claim the title of auteur, Cohen is that rare triple threat who has not only directed, but written and produced his own motion pictures. He began his genre career in the 1960s as a creator of the classic television series, The Invaders. But perhaps tiring of the restrictions of network television, Cohen began making his own feature-length films, occasionally selling his original screenplays to other producers and studios. Perhaps best known for his trilogy of mutant infant movies, beginning with It's Alive, Cohen has made his reputation as a maverick filmmaker who works effectively across several genres. His most popular films include such titles as Q, God Told Me To, The Stuff, and Bette Davis's last feature film, Wicked Stepmother. Cohen recently invited us to his home in Beverly Hills to tell us a few of his adventures, writing, producing, and directing in the screen trade. In terms of your career as a filmmaker, you started as a writer, as a screenwriter?
I started as a television writer.
Television writer.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit of that history?
Well, I wanted to get into the business badly, and I thought that writing was the best way to get in, because if I wanted to direct, I would have to get a crew and a budget and film and an entire production together. And if I wanted to write, all I needed was some blank paper. So I just began writing material and going around to New York production companies and barraging them with material. What do you need? You know, if they wanted a detective story, I wrote it. If they wanted a suspense story, I wrote it. Even a teenage comedy, I wrote it. I mean, usually I was back 2 or 3 days later with the script. I just go home and write it and bring it back. And eventually I wore people down. You know, they were embarrassed, I think, that I came back so many times. They felt obliged finally to give me a job. And then I suddenly had a check in my hand for $500 for the first thing I ever sold. And then I knew this was like printing money. Just go in a room and write, and people will give you money in return for what you've written.
For me, probably what you're best known from that period is creator and writer of the television series, The Invaders. Could you tell us a little bit of the history of that show?
There's been so much about it since that time. But let's face it, in all honesty, the show is really an outgrowth of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where people are taken over by aliens. But there have been so many stories in all science fiction about aliens taking over the bodies of human beings and posing as human beings and infiltrating our society as human beings. At the time I wrote the show, it really had a little something to do with the politics of the country, where everybody was hunting for communists, and everybody might have been a communist. What does a communist look like? How do we tell if somebody's a communist? And here was this takeoff on this witch hunt where this guy's running around looking for aliens, trying to expose aliens in our society. So it was really a social commentary on the McCarthy politics. So I was really caught up in that kind of writing something that was meaningful to me in the guise of doing commercial entertainment.
You're famous for several films, Q and God Told Me To, The Stuff, but because of the fact that there are 3 It's Alive films, it probably has your greatest name recognition attached to that film or films.
Well, you only make sequels to a picture if it's a hit. So the picture ended up being a huge success. And I mean, I think the picture cost about $450,000 to make, and it grossed $39 million in 1974. Rick Baker came on and designed this little guy over here. This is a little It's Alive monster, which we used in 3 movies. Rick designed this. We sat down together with a pad and drew it. I said, Rick, you know, give me something that looks like the Star Child from 2001 and a wolf. combined, and put a lot of veins in the forehead. Get a lot of veins in the forehead and give it muscles. And that's all I told him, and he came up with this guy, which has lasted pretty good. Rick did a pretty good job because this thing is from 1974, and it's still in very good shape in case we have to make a fourth picture.
I'm curious to know if you could tell us a little bit more about Q, with an ancient monster flying above the Chrysler Building and laying eggs.
That's one of my movies that we started making without any money. I just hired people and we started shooting the helicopter footage, and we killed a couple of days with helicopter coverage. Meantime, I was out here, on the phone, hiring people and to be in the picture, and trying to get somebody to come up with some money for me. And my old pal Sam Arkoff came through. And of course, naturally, I can't make a nice little movie like the Cohen brothers can make Blood Simple that all takes place in a bar somewhere and has 5 or 6 people in the cast. When I go out to make a movie for no money, I've got to have a giant monster living in the Chrysler Building with hundreds of police with machine guns and helicopters and every imaginable kind of production problem, and still make the picture for no money. So it's just that I always seem to have to undertake these projects that seem almost impossible to make. God Told Me To is quite a good picture, and I suppose there might be renewed interest in it because of Unbreakable, Shemayan's new picture, because there's a strong similarity between that plot line and God Told Me To. But the leading character in that was a cop, but he was an unusual cop. He was a cop with emotional problems. He had a girlfriend who he was lying to. He told her he was going to divorce his wife, Sandy Dennis, but he really didn't want to divorce his wife. He wanted things to just be the way they were. He was a man who didn't want children. His wife had had several miscarriages, and she got the feeling that he had something to do with the miscarriages, like he willed the babies not to be born. And then as the picture progressed, the character played by Tony LoBianco finally realized he wasn't really a normal human being, that he was possessed of certain superpowers, he was a Superman, and that he had an alter ego who was the mirror image of himself, or the reverse image of himself. This is all in Unbreakable as well. And then he found out that the alter image of himself was really an alien, and that he was a recessive alien, the other was a dominant alien. And picture was a lot of fun, very dark, good performances by the actors again, and it was a labor of love. And that picture is the one that's most requested by film festivals all over the world for some reason.
What do you think is the largest misconception about you as a filmmaker?
People will say, where do you get these ideas from? And of course, I have no answer for it because it all comes from the subconscious. The best work comes from the subconscious. And when I start off to write a picture and I want it to be really good, then I don't work out an outline or a storyline, or I don't know where I'm going. I just know how it's going to begin. And then I get into the story and it unravels for me, and I'm telling it as it's happening, like I'm seeing the movie for the first time. Then when I stop work, I can't wait to get back to it the next day because I want to find out what's going to happen next. I want to know how it's going to turn out. And I know when they teach in writing school classes on film writing that you should have a certain thing happen in the first 10 pages and certain things should happen in the next 15 pages, and there should be I'm afraid that's why so many of the screenplays all seem the same. They're all like being carbon copied from the form that they've been given, and I just can't enjoy working that way. I like absolute chaos. Even when I'm directing the movies, I try to take everything that's been prepared and change it at the last minute so that it'll be fresh, mainly so I'll be interested in it. You know, my problem is that after writing it, to go in and direct the picture, I've already been there. I've seen the movie in my head already, so now I've got to interest myself in what's happening, and I can only do that if I have a really interesting actor, and if I can then give the actor improvisations or riffs off of the main theme. It's like a jazz performance where you know the main theme you're going through, but you know you're going to go off of the main theme now and go into variations and give each of the musicians a chance to wail And then at a certain key point, you'll just segue back into the main theme again and finish. So that's what I try to do with making the pictures. And I always try to find something in the actor that I can then put into the character. Like when we were making Q, the winged serpent, first day we were shooting, Michael Moriarty was listening to a tape on earphones in between the setups. And I said, "What are you listening to?" He says, "Oh, I wrote some music, some jazz music, and I do the scat stuff." And I said, "Well, let me hear it." And he let me listen to it. I said, "Well, wait a minute. I mean, how about we take this small-time crook and we give him an ambition? He doesn't want to be a crook. He wants to be a jazz singer in clubs. And, we'll make up a scene where he goes for an audition, and they reject him. And then he takes the job driving the getaway car because he has nothing else to do. And we sympathize with him for that reason. And it'll give me a chance to use your music. I'll let you sing your songs. We'll put a couple of your songs in the picture." He's looking at me. This is the first day we worked together. He never heard anything. And immediately I owned this actor after that. He belonged to me because I had put a part of him into the movie. He was getting to do something he loved to do, which was to sing. In the stuff, it's a industrial spy. An industrial saboteur played by Michael Moriarty, who's hired by the ice cream industry to discover the secret of this rival product, the stuff, which threatens to supplant ice cream as the national dessert. And then he says to me, Moriarty said, "This character, I haven't got a hook on him," he said, "because, I got to have some music. I think in terms of music, and I can't get a musical image in my mind of this character, whatever the character's name was." So I said to him right then, I said, "Okay, we're going to change the character. We're going to name him Mo Rutherford, and we're going to make him a Southern boy." So immediately Moriarty got into his Southern accent and started acting idiotic. And I said, this guy's cover is that he acts like a total fool, and people are completely disarmed by his attitude, and then he can put one over on them because they don't have any respect for him, and they don't think he's any threat. So he immediately got into that character. It happens just in 2 minutes, changes the whole movie. If you can just find a little hook for the actor, and then all the scenes rewrite themselves because of the strength of the personality of the character. It kind of changes what happens in every scene that he's in and makes it interesting, rather than basically just questions and answers. How big do you think that monster is, and what can kill it, and all that. I've really never been into that kind of stuff in the pictures. I got a picture that's shooting now that I'm not directing. Joel Schumacher's directing the picture. It's called Phone Booth, and the whole movie takes place inside a telephone booth. A guy is trapped in a telephone booth. He can't leave. There's a sniper across the way with a telescopic sight. If he hangs up the phone, he'll be killed instantly. The whole movie, the guy is trapped in the telephone booth. And we've had every star in Hollywood interested in doing this, from Mel Gibson to Will Smith, and Jim Carrey even announced he was going to do it. Now it's being starred in by a brand new actor named Colin Farrell, who's supposed to be the great new young actor in town. And he's fantastic. But to get a picture made that all takes place in a telephone booth is a unique happening.
How do you decide which projects you will sell to someone and which projects you say, "No, I've got to direct this baby"?
Well, it's odd how things happen. Sometimes you can't get a directing gig on something you've written, and you have to sell it. Sometimes the offer is just too good, as it was on Phone Booth, where it was just too lucrative an offer to turn down. And I was originally thought that we were going to have Mel Gibson. So when CAA, which is a big talent agency, came to me and said, "Look, you can make this picture yourself as a low-budget picture, or we can turn this into a blockbuster film for you, with all the recognition that you can get out of that, and all the money you can get out of that." And I said, "All right, then I'll sell it, and I'll write another one for myself," which is basically what you can do. If you have an endless array of ideas, one of them doesn't become so all-important that it becomes tragic if you have to have somebody else make the film. I'm glad I got Joel Schumacher. He's good at this kind of thing. But, I'll direct another one, and I'll get a better opportunity to direct it because I'll have a hit movie with a major star in it.
Do you have like 3 of your films that are your personal favorites? Or
Well,
that you recommend?
I would tell them to see God Told Me To. I would tell them to see It's Alive. I would tell them to see The Stuff. I would tell them to see, if they can get it, The Private Files of J. Edgar Hoover. Did I say Q? Definitely see Q. I mean, and then after that, I'm sure they want to see all my films. If once they get a whiff of these movies and they see that there's an originality to each picture, I think they'll want to seek out the other films, because if there's one thing my pictures may have, it's an originality. They're not like everybody else's pictures. I never meant them to be, and they aren't.
Larry, as a man who's the consummate filmmaker, as a writer, producer, director, I'm sure there's 1 or 2 people watching this show who might want to follow in your footsteps. Could you give us some simple, practical advice how they might go about doing that?
Well, first of all, don't copy something you've seen in the theater, and don't make something which you think is like a successful picture. Or another thing not to do is to just make something that's not very good because you're convinced it's better than everything else that's playing. People generally look at the lowest common denominator and say, hey, I can do better than that. But you should be aspiring to do the best rather than to be better than the worst. If you can't figure a whole story out, just start writing it anyway. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much. I believe that you've got to let your instincts carry you. So you can give yourself a chance to write and to let your subconscious be your partner in the creation of the piece. You don't have to know everything that's going to happen in the story. And if you get stuck, forget it. Just go on to the next scene that you know, and the scenes in between will eventually connect up. You can always write the connective scenes later. I always say, write the best scenes in the script first. If you have a script and you know there's some terrific scenes in the script that are really exciting, write them immediately and get yourself excited about it. Because the best thing you can do is to get yourself excited about your own work. Once you turn yourself on, you're in good shape. So do what has to be to get yourself thrilled with the material so that you've got to get back there and keep working on it. I would suggest people try to write 20 pages at one sitting. And don't look at it. Just keep writing till you've got the 20 pages done, and then put it aside and look at it the next day. Go to sleep. See it the next day. When I write at night and then I don't look at it till the next day, I don't even remember I wrote it. I look at it the next morning, I say, hey, a little gnome must have got in here during the night and wrote a script, because I have no recollection of the process of writing these scenes. And I don't remember a lot of the dialogue either. So it's a big surprise for me. And when I think back on the process of writing the other movies, I have very, very vague memories of the actual moment of writing anything. It's kind of all in a blur. Like I get so into it that I'm really not conscious of what I'm doing. It's all the subconscious. You got to free the subconscious. And I think that would be composing music or anything else, even painting a painting. I think the subconscious plays a tremendous part of it if you can just allow that to come forward. Or it's like saying you're going to go to bed and have a really nice dream. You're really dreaming up a movie. That's what I think there's a lot to be said. Dreams are a manifestation of the subconscious, and writing is basically the same thing. If you allow it to be, if you can free yourself and allow your subconscious to come out and do the work for you.
Do you consider yourself a success when you, in this town or in your life or in your mind or in your...
Well, I consider myself a success in that the most important thing in any career is the continuity of the career, that you're still doing it, that you're still working after all these years and still coming up with fresh things. And, right now I'm making more money than I ever made from the screenplays I'm writing. More money, most of the scripts I'm selling now, I'm getting more money for the script than I used to get for the entire picture. When I would deliver the picture, they would give me a check that was less than what I'm getting for just giving them the script now. And I'm getting more attention and getting treated like I'm part of the first class A group in town, you know. So I've been even though they didn't do the picture, I was meeting with, Mel Gibson and all those kind of people about my picture, where ordinarily I never met the actors of that strata before. So I'm enjoying that part of it. I must say I probably enjoy directing the movies more, but I'm just waiting to see what happens. I figured maybe this will elevate my career to a level where I can make my own pictures with a little bit more money and the same freedom to do what I want to do. Because I noticed that even the name directors, when they're making studio pictures, everything has to be cleared with the studio. And there are very few original ideas that anybody comes up with that they can just do. It's a big, big operation. Whereas a little movie like me, I'm the boss. If I say do it, they do it, that's all. And nobody knows about it. The people who put up the money couldn't care less because they're not paying a dime more whether the picture takes 31 days or 29 days. I'm getting a set price for the picture. I can do whatever I please. But that's the only way you can have freedom. I always said the two places you get freedom are at the very bottom and at the very top if you're Steven Spielberg or Robert Zemeckis. And in between, you're in terrible trouble because there's people second-guessing you and looking at your dailies and, pulling the rug out from under you, so to speak. They don't fire the directors usually. They just put them under tremendous pressure.
Any regrets about your career?
I would have thought I regretted years ago that I didn't get called upon to make big budget movies. But as it turned out, it was all for the best. I had a really nice life. And I got to do it as I wanted to do it and have the total control that I don't know if I ever would have got, even if I was making big budget movies. Because the bigger the budget the movie, the more production problems you have. And the more people you have to deal with, and the more chaos that can ensue. And even if you're given total freedom, you end up having to give a lot of it away just to get the picture finished. But, everybody can't be David Lean and be given 2 years to shoot a movie. And I don't think I would have liked having 2 years to shoot a movie. I don't think I could concentrate for 2 years on one subject. I have so many things I want to write, so many stories I want to tell, that to me, getting it over with in 30 days is great, and let's get on to the next one. I'm doing this for me anyway. In the long run, I'm having more fun out of this than anybody. And my buddy over here. Say good night.
All right.
It's time for you to go to bed now.
Okay. Thank you, Larry Cohen.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Join me here again on the wild side of the imagination, where a sense of wonder and a feeling of terror can often intersect. You'll find us waiting here, the dark dreamers